What that danyo, what that dang, and God danyo, oh, what that dang. This is the Black Pot, aka Kuku Shunamo, where we speak truth to power. Now here we don't criticize, but if we must criticize, we'd only do it on one condition: to build and not to destroy. That is why we say we are in the service of God and country. Yes, and of course remember, this is the voice of the people, and the voice of the people is the voice of God. Yes, no two ways about them thing, man. And I want to say thank you so much for coming along. I appreciate you and I love you. This is the Black Pot, aka Kuku Shonamo, where we speak truth to power. What else can I do? What else can I say but to just say thank you so much? I appreciate you. Now today we have a number of things. Oh my God, have mercy. In the newsreel, and I want us to open our ears and listen with rapt attention. We have a number of issues. I want us to go straight up, headlong into these interesting issues. My brother, my sister, the president is speaking again. As it stands right now, so many things are happening in the country. And we need to bring you to speed. My brother, my sister, it's terrible. And I need us to come along and listen to this with rapt attention. Oh, God have mercy. What is this? So many things are happening in our country, Ghana. And we need all hands on deck. Or else, my brother, my sister, we would be in trouble. Our nation, my brother, my sister, what can I say? Okay, so the first story I want to look at is coming from my own treenews.com. And it says, Ghana's decision to seek IMF assistance has paid off. And this is Nana Addo Dankwa Akuffo Addo speaking. President Akuffo Addo has said his government's decision to secure a $3 billion extended credit facility with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has paid off, looking at the rate of recovery of the Ghanaian economy since the facility was secured in 2023. Now, speaking at the Jubilee House, when the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, and a delegation called on him as part of her two-day visit to Ghana, President Addo Dankwa Akuffo Addo said his administration will continue to implement sound economic policies and stay the course with regard to the current IMF program the country is recruiting. I leave it here. Nana Akuffo Addo is a slave master. He's a dirty slave master. You know who a dirty slave master is? A slave master who monstrously is bloodthirsty. He has no respect for Ghanaians. He has no respect for our heritage. He has no respect for our culture. Above all, he has no respect for the blood and toil of our ancestors. This was a man who initiated a celebration of loans that are tying us down and the generations to come with kenke parties. They brought a cake, my brother, my sister, to be celebrating the so-called e-levy. These were the same people who celebrated the IMF loans coming in with kenke parties. It looks like every time the country is saddled in debt, anytime the country makes movements towards slavery, we celebrate that with kenke parties and cakes. I am so ashamed of this president. Sometimes I do not know whether it is good to go to school and run away from illiteracy or it is better to stay illiterate. Sometimes I weep for my country. Trust me. Listen, my brethren. The IMF has never helped any country economically. The IMF is a dangerous slave master that is set up to dismantle the hinges and the foundations of African economies. Like it or not, believe it or not, love it or loathe it. The IMF is not African-centered. The IMF is not something that Africans should celebrate. The IMF is a colonial organization. In fact, better still, a neo-colonialist that is ready to continue to dismantle the very economy of African nations. You think it's by chance, even though we have the gold and the diamond, the bauxite, the lithium, and even more, including oil, yet we don't seem to be seeing the economic light in any of these African countries. As long as the World Bank and the IMF continue to exist, African economic foundations will be degraded and dismantled. But our colonialist-minded leaders, like Nana Akuffo Addo, Bawumia, and all those people who are no good leaders, I will say this time and again, even with a gun to my head. How can you, how dare you, Mr. President? You run the whole country aground. You told us we were sitting on gold and diamond. You told us we were sitting on money, but because of bad leadership, we couldn't see the money. And when you came, you kicked us from out of the chairs that sat on the money. And we can't find no money. You can't find the money yourself. You have to go to a colonialist organization like the IMF. Knees on the ground, begging for loans. Are you not a traitor, President? Maybe I should write another song called Traitor President. My brother, I am so hurt. They said they went to the IMF, and this is Mr. President here gratifying and glorifying the image of a neo-colonialist organization like the IMF. Anytime we discover any natural mineral resource, these are the same organizations that send their shadows and their long rubber hands into our country. They give us loans that we don't need, and then we use as collateral these natural resources that we just discovered. They come for the natural resources by making sure that we are unable to pay those loans. We should have known this several hundreds of years ago. Those of you who have not read the book that I always talk about, The Economic Hitman, Confessions of the Economic Hitman, please find time. It is an easy to read book, and you would understand every little sentence. From a former hitman, economic hitman. When we call you a hitman, it means you are an assassin. And if you are an economic hitman, you are an economic assassin. It is not all assassins who kill people. There are assassins who kill economies. The IMF and the World Bank are such dangerous and dirty assassins. Yet our leaders are still in bed with them because they are so corrupt, because their brains do not work anymore. They are too old to think. Some of them have never even thought about Africa since they were born. All they care about is their allegiance to their slave masters. We cannot take any decision in this nation unless America is consulted, unless England is consulted, now unless China is consulted. China is a threat to American businesses in Africa. And therefore, America and China are at a cold war. And we Africans are those who suffer. After all, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. My brother, my sister, when would our leaders have the common sense of decency, common sense of patriotism to understand that Africa needs genuine minds of loyalty and patriotism, and not big book heads, and not grammar speaking leaders who don't mean anything for Africa? I leave it here. It's a shame, my brother. That with all the gold and the diamond that almost every African country is endowed with, Africa is still the poorest continent on paper. We are only rich on paper, but in reality, we are paupers who are always running after the IMF and the World Bank. Africa is far richer than America, yet America is taking care of Africa, taken care of in quotes. I am so traumatized that at this point, I wish I was God. I will start executing some of these dangerous, dirty leaders in Africa, one after the other, and relegating them to the hottest part of hell, and calling Satan with the biggest hard-on to sodomize them one after the other. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Next thing I want to look at, and I need you to come along, my youth. This one I'm reading from Peace FM Online, and it says, NPP's Agenda 111 not feasible. Many cannot be completed. Ex-President Mahama. And I read. John Dramani Mahama, former president and the flag bearer for the National Democratic Congress, NDC, has expressed concern, my brother, my sister. And he has expressly described and decried the incumbent government's Agenda 111 as an overly ambitious project whose feasibility cannot be guaranteed. The former president expressed his skepticism over the feasibility of the government's Agenda 111 project during a discussion with some clergy members in Accra. He emphasized that the government's plan appears unrealistic and unlikely to be completed within a reasonable timeline. President Mahama has grown politically, and I truly admire some of the things he says sometimes. Listen to him carefully politicking. Can you read between the lines? He knows that Agenda 111 is Agenda 419. He knows that Agenda 111 is Satan's agenda to dismantle the foundations of our economy and to throw dust into our eyes. But the man is carefully speaking, using euphemisms. He euphemistically is talking mystically. My brother, my sister, and those that have eyes, let them hear. And those that have ears, let them hear and know it that yes, the times are here. Watch this. He's saying, Agenda 111's feasibility is doubtable. Yet deep in his loins, he knows that this is incredibly porous. Can I go ahead? He knows that Agenda 111 is a scam. But the man still goes on to say, yes, they can complete some, but a lot of them will remain uncompleted. It was the same President Mahama who said, one district, one factory, above all, one village, one dam. It was a mockery of an agenda where one cow will go and drink water and the whole dam will run aground empty. I just came from a tour of the northern regions and I was shocked. I saw some so-called one village, one dams. And truly, this time around, it is not the cows that are drinking the water and making it empty. It is the chicken, the fowls. When they drink the water, it runs aground empty, dry, as if nothing was ever done. I went through Welembele. I went through Tumu. I went through a lot of those wonderful areas. The Gonja land and beyond. We are still living on a desert in a country that says that it is far away from the desert. My brother, Agenda 111 is nothing but Agenda 419. What can they do? What can they not do? But I'm happy how Mahama is playing safe and cautious. Above all, I am happy because this is a challenge the former president is throwing to this government. If you are able to complete Agenda 111 I will eat my head. That is what Mahama is saying. It is to trick the government in power, to do everything possible, to throw the budget out of sync, to deal with Agenda 111. Is it surprising that Oppong Nkrumah refused to speak on these things long before he was shifted and removed and excavated and scooped out of the information ministry and put in a ministry that he knows very little about? My brother, my sister, housing and construction. Need I say more? I leave it here. There is something here I need to draw your attention to, and I need you to open up your ears and listen with rapt attention. Now this one I'm reading from oh my God, I'm just seeing another headline and it's crazy, but let me look at this first. It says, court order, redevelopment plans, the backstory to the Fantasy Dome demolition. Lord God have mercy. I read. Now, on March 16, 2024, bulldozers were sent to the premises of one of Ghana's biggest event centers, the Fantasy Dome, located in the heart of Accra. By the time they left, a 20,000-seater edifice had been pulled to the ground, leaving debris across the vast space where many popular entertainment shows had been held over the years. Adjoining structures at the venue were not spared in videos available to Ghana Web, as rooms that held other accoutrements like lights and sound machines had also been adversely affected. According to the CEO of Fantasy Entertainment, Leslie Quaynor, the demolition was undertaken by state security agencies under the instructions of the Ghana Trade Fair Company. His views were corroborated by pro-government Asasi Radio's account of events, which read in part, the Trade Fair Company Limited on Saturday, March 16, 2024, and backed on an exercise supervised by the Ghana Police Service with support from the National Security Ministry to take down the Fantasy Dome for construction works on the Trade Fair site to proceed freely. Listen, even if the Fantasy Dome was heaven, we will pull it down. If you put up a structure, even if that is where God sits in front of heaven, we shall put it down. There needs to be decency and order in the country. People are erecting structures all over the place with no common sense. In my area, my brother, my sister, some structures have also been pulled down. And I went there and I saw red flags flying all over the place, people crying. I took time to ask some of them, were you told that there was going to be a demolition exercise? They said yes, they told us. But the time they said they were going to come to dismantle the place, they didn't. So we felt comfortable and we were there, and they came and pulled it down. That's why we are crying. Age. My brother, your landlord says leave the house by September 10. He has paid you off all your money to go away. September 10 came, you packed your things waiting to leave. The landlord decided not to mind. You decided to be in the structure. 5 days later, on September 10, the landlord comes to kick you out at a time you are not prepared. Are you crazy? Why do we get so comfortable with irrationality? Our nation must change. Look how our streets are bathed in carelessness and nonchalance. Look how our streets have turned into marketplaces. Irresponsible. What a nation. For as much as I care, you can even pull down the seat of government, kick out Nana Akuffo Addo to go back and sit somewhere and restructure if that is what the nation needs. I'm fed up with people playing victim. Nana Akuffo Addo is not a good president. Yet, you were those who made him a bad president. And because he played to the gallery, your whims and caprices taking center stage. Today, he has become that villain because he doesn't have the balls to be able to stand for a better Ghana. Such a leader is a terrible leader. Crack the whip. Yeah, become the most unpopular leader. You shall be celebrated right like Kwame Nkrumah. In the days of Kwame Nkrumah, at a point, he was the villain of the people. At a point when he cracked the whip and he wanted things to be in shape, they kicked him out. But today, they are seeing him as a divinity. I leave it here. Break down the walls. Dismantle all the walls. Another thing I would like to close with is this one. Permit me. And I'm reading from Ghana Web. It just came in right now. It says, in this sorrow republic, when you are connected to the president and vice president, you can get away with murder. Hey. This is a Blakk Rasta saying. He's saying when you are connected to the president and his vice, you can get away with murder. I believe that. I read. Now the MP for North Tongue, Samuel Okujato Ablakwa, has expressed dismay over what he perceives as a trend of individuals with connection to authority figures evading accountability for their actions. In a Facebook post, Mr. Ablakwa highlighted the case of Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, also known as Kobna Edu Jemfi, questioning why he has not faced prosecution for alleged identity fraud. Mr. Ablakwa referenced Ghana's foreign minister, Shirley Ayoko Boyche's confirmation to Parliament that she issued a diplomatic passport to Victor Kusi Boateng under the name Kobna Edu Jemfi, with different personal details purportedly to aid his fundraising for the National Cathedral project. The lawmaker expressed astonishment that despite the revelation, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng has not faced repercussions. Hear this, my youth. Watch me. Now, my brother, just last week, I drew the attention of Ablakwa to the issue of Reverend Kusi Boateng. Such dangerous criminals. Why should a man possess two different identities? Are you a ghost or are you the Holy Spirit? Listen, different mothers, different days of birth, different names. It must say dopey. My brother, my sister, yet he has connections to the president. A president who can say, yes, we have seen millions of American dollars under your bed. We have seen millions of British pounds in your cupboard. I know that you shall be exonerated because you are a good woman. We have seen a president who has no common sense of loyalty for the nation say, oh, this man is not doing galamsey. We all know, yet evidence shows that he has broken into a forest that is conserved to mine gold. What a president. And his vice is also a stooge. You know who a stooge is? He is a caricature of a human being. Should I go further? In fact, he is a robot. He is a coliko on string. He said he's a mate. He says yes to everything his master says. And this man has the guts to say he wants to be president. Are we serious? A robot who says yes, massa, yes, massa. In English, we call them the yes men. There's nothing he would ever say no to. He claimed that he is the mate. A puppet on a string. Such a dirty mindset. a caricature of a comedian who is not funny. Today he wants to be president. And silly Ghanaians will still vote for people like that. I'm angry. A man who told you that he couldn't say no to the president. Everything the president said, he said yes. After all, he's the mate. Even if the boss is going into destruction, is going into doom, is going into Armageddon, he doesn't care. What a shame. He has the guts to come and put his photos all over the place that he wants to be president. I repeat it. The day that guy becomes president, I will leave your country for you. You think I'm joking? After all, who even cares about me? I will leave. I will never sit down under this guy in the next election as president. Never. You think we are robots? We are not idiots. You were a yes man. You said yes to anything the demonic president said. You didn't care. Today you want me to sit under you as president so you will mummify me. Jesus have mercy. Blakk Rasta has said it. When you have connections to the president and his vice, you can be Lucifer, but they will paint you as Angel Gabriel. I leave it here. It's been the Black Pot, aka Kukushu, where we speak truth to power. And I want to say thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you and I love you. We're getting straight up into the African history class.